Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas, on Monday, December the 22nd, and welcome to our commentary. Before we go on, I just wanted to let you know that I have a post over at the American Thinker today. Uh, it's very interesting because it's a little bit out of the political conversation, but yet a little bit of politics. But it deals with the terrorist attack in Bondi, India, where that happened, or Australia, excuse me, in Australia. And the lady who wrote this post brought a very interesting angle to the story. She said, what we saw in Bondi with men coming to the rescue of other people, or even going after the assassins, the people who were shooting, what we saw is the best of men. That quality of men protecting and instinctively protecting people. And she was basically saying, let's hear it for the guys. Let's be thankful that men are willing to do stuff like that to protect the people around them. And I just thought it was a very nice commentary. And again, you can check it out in my American Thinker post, and you can also go to the link and read more about it. But it was really heartwarming, when you think of how anti-male our culture has been lately, and toxic masculinity and all this garbage that we hear. And yet it was so refreshing to have a lady say, hey, how that was nice that we had men there who were willing to protect and even risk their lives to save people and protect people, go after the guy with the gun and all of that. So I just thought it was a really nice touch to write something like that. Because, look, I was the father of three sons. I have a brother who has a son as well. And, it's been tough. It's been tough teaching the right values to men in this society right now, this culture, which at times appears to be anti-male and always, focusing on all the wrong things that men do rather than focusing on many of the good things that men do, such as provide security and provide help and come to the rescue of people. We saw that during 9/11, when we saw those firemen go into those buildings. We saw that whenever there's been a crisis, after 9/11, who was volunteering to go fight for the country? Well, it was a lot of men who were doing that. So I was just happy to see that. It's a little different take on the issue, but I think it's a necessary take to hear that from a woman, in a sense, thanking men for having done what men are supposed to do, which is to protect their families and so on. So I just thought it was a really neat take, and you can read it at my American Thinker post, available today over at americanthinker.com. Well, there's a big story about CBS. Apparently, CBS 60 Minutes was going to run a story on this prison down in El Salvador, and then they decided to take it down, or at least put it on hold. And it's created a lot of controversy because a lot of people are saying that they were influenced by the White House, or there's politics. And I don't know if that's true. I don't have any information to verify or deny that. So all I can do is go to Barry Weiss, who is the new editor, I guess the lady in charge over at CBS News, and her explanation was a little bit different, which I thought, actually, I thought her explanation made a lot of sense. First of all, she said this piece is not ready for broadcast. You know, really nothing new about this piece. Number two, she said that they should get more, somebody from the administration should go on record or should be a part of the presentation. Now, the reporter said they went to the White House and they didn't participate, so that may explain that. But I thought the most interesting point that Barry Weiss brought up is that in the piece, these men who were sent to that prison were referred to as migrants, when in fact they're not migrants. They are, in most cases, pretty bad criminals who were in the country illegally, who were arrested and sent to that prison, not because they're migrants, but because they're criminals. And many of them, of course, like I said before, were here illegally. And I just thought, what a refreshing thing. I mean, I know it's going to drive a lot of people crazy when you hear that, but what a refreshing idea to refer to someone who's a criminal in the United States and who was arrested and deported as an illegal immigrant, because that's what he is. And I just thought that's refreshing to hear that from the new editor of CBS News that that was one of the objections that she had to the story. Now they may show the story again, they may make some changes to it and show it again, and that's fine. It's a free country. You should be able to print whatever you want or to show whatever you want. But I just thought, the position taken by Barry Weiss, who's the new editor over there, I thought her position was reasonable, is to say, hey, this is not ready, and we shouldn't be calling these people migrants. They are not migrants. And I just thought that was a very refreshing thing to hear, at a time when, frankly, I think sometimes we don't differentiate between people who are here legally and people who are not. And as someone like myself who came legally to the United States, I came here with my parents, as many of you know. We came here from Cuba many years ago. As someone who came here legally with my parents, I've always understood that distinction. And I've always appreciated the fact that the United States has immigration laws like every other country in the world does. I mean, the United States is not the only one that has immigration laws. Most countries do. In fact, all of them probably have one kind of immigration law or another. So I just thought it was a very interesting point that Barry Weiss would raise that issue as an objection to the story. Speaking of immigration, one of the things that DHS in this campaign of deportation and so on, one of the things that they're not getting credit for, frankly, is the number of children that they've been able to recapture or relocate, or I should say, the number of missing children they've been able to find. 127,000, according to the latest DHS report, that they've been able to find and I guess return to families or wherever they return them to. And I always thought that one of the greatest tragedies of what happened during the Biden administration and the border was exactly that we had all these children here missing. And some of them, by the way, they found in that, when they went into that farm in California and they found some kids, some of these missing children who were working in a farm illegally. I'm sure there are other examples as well. So I think they should be commended for that. And they should get more praise for the fact that they found all these kids. And these kids are either back with their families or wherever they are, but at least they're not missing, which is the objective of the whole thing. Well, it's been an interesting few days here. The president of the United States has been going after some ships, oil tankers in the Caribbean. And much of this, of course, has to do with Venezuela. And the fact that for one reason or another, I'm not familiar with all the legalities, but apparently some of these ships are carrying oil that is benefiting the Maduro regime. In some cases, some of this oil is going to Cuba, which is, of course, keeping that dictatorship floating. So it looks like the Trump administration may be extending that plan. President Trump was supposed to speak this afternoon, Monday, and we'll talk about it at a later time. But I support the idea of going after these little boats that are bringing drugs and going after some of these ships that are carrying oil and activities that are completely outside of the law. I think it's an important message to send to the Maduro government and other governments. Say, hey, look, there's a risk when you engage in illegal activity. So I think the president is right on with respect to this particular activity. Well, let me leave you today with a little bit of on this day in history. Let's go back to 1808. That's a long time ago, 217 years ago? Well, it was 217 years ago that Beethoven's Fifth Symphony was featured or premiered, if you will, for the first time in Vienna. Now, that is one of the greatest musical pieces of all time. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. I guess it's one of the favorite classical music pieces of all time. And, everybody knows the beginning, 2 or 3 notes of that one, because it's a real classic. But it was premiered on this day in 1808. And you begin to realize what it was like back then to do these things. Obviously, they didn't have records. They didn't have radio. So you had one chance to listen to it, and that's when it was performed live. And I wonder how many people even got in to see it, how many people it was performed for. Generally, it was performed for royalty not for the common people. Later on, of course, that changed. So I don't know, maybe 100 people got to hear the premiere. And then, nobody got to hear it after that unless it was repeated. The performance was repeated. But Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, one of the greatest classical pieces of all time, was featured on this day in Vienna in 1808. So the next time you hear da 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 da, the next time you hear that, you know that it was featured on this day 217 years ago today. Well, thank you for listening. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.